Hi, I'm Brad Teare, and I want to talk a little bit about my new video on Gumroad. This is a downloadable video that you can watch on any device, and it's an hour and 27 minutes long. The primary topic is using red as a modifying color. Now, this is an idea that's been around for quite a while, and it's about modifying colors between cool of blue and the warm of yellow using what's considered by some the neutral temperature of red. So, we explore that idea a little bit more and why that's of interest to painters, and I hope you'll find it interesting. But beyond that, that's sort of the experimental foundation of that video. Yeah, I used this technique for the first time live on the video, and I found it a very interesting technique and one that I've used since. So, but beyond that, we also talk about what is meant by broken or vibrational color. We talk about why you would want to mix a variety of colors in one stroke to get that vibrational effect and how to do that. I also talk about how to use a palette knife effectively. The video isn't primarily about using the tools, but I do use a palette knife throughout, and if you use a brush, you'll learn a lot as well. I also talk about which palette knives I use. In this case, I added 2 new palette knives, and I talk about why I chose those, why I enjoyed them. One of the knives I chose, I actually ended up not using, so I talk about that as well. I talk about how to get certain effects with different palette knives. So I have quite a collection over here, and I talk about how to get soft or hard edges using a variety of different palette knives. So I also talk about how to apply multiple layers of color over the top of each other. In other words, how to lay down the color so that you get the textural effect that you want, as well as a vibrational effect. So some of the mixing I do on the canvas, and some I do on the palette, and then apply to the canvas. And I go over both methods. Now, one of the things that I do in this video that's new, if you've watched my old YouTube videos, is I have multiple cameras, and so you'll see how I mix the color on the palette and then apply it to the canvas. So in previous videos, almost always it was just the canvas, and you didn't really get a lot of information about how to mix those colors. And I go over all the colors that I use in the painting that I demonstrate. It's an hour and 27 minutes long. I think there's a little bit for everybody in that video, and I think it's equally useful and fun for beginners as well as advanced painters. So I hope you'll check out my blog. It's $3.49, and there'll be links to the Gumroad video there, as well as some information on what items were mentioned in the video, like the palette knives and the colors and so on. Also, if you have any questions or comments about this technique or any idea mentioned in the video, that you'll go to blog 349 and leave a comment. So I hope that blog number 349 will be associated with this video, and you can kind of come back to that, and we'll talk about the video in the comments section, as well as I'll modify the blog entry to reflect any new concerns or questions or comments. So I think it'll be a fun project. I hope that you'll join me and check out Gumroad. And until the next video, thank you. This is the canvas that we'll be painting today, and it has my underpainting already on there. And we're going to be talking about using red. This for my darks. Now, a really awesome color to use for dark is the Prussian blue. What they mean when they say that red is a great modifier is that red can be added without changing the temperature. Shards of really dark pigment popping out. I think it'll be good. To get some color into this, I'm going to look through some old paintings and select a few that have elements of this painting. So here's a couple. Now that has a nice, but I really love the sky. You can see the really great texture in that sky. Now if you overmix, at least in my mind, what happens is you just get a flat green and the color has no variation, or there's no little shards of color in it. Now I'll be demonstrating this soon, but painting, you can see the sky is very blue, the hills are very green, and each area is its own color region without much harmony between them. But the three different areas, or the various areas of the painting, didn't seem to integrate. Nice blunt tip, and yet you can really hold a lot of paint on there. So these two mixtures are examples of lightly mixed color. You can see the lactites, and those will drag across the top of the undercoat and leave these very interesting. So I'm trying to get that pink vibrational thing going there. Now you'll notice the direction I pull the palette knife determines the attack of the color, you might say. And by that's sort of a musical term, but what I mean is, one palette knife does not make the same mark as 6 palette knives. So I'm kind of a palette knife junkie as well as a color junkie. And if I see a new palette knife, I almost always